Hello there and welcome back to some more Forza Top Gear laps. Today, blink and you'll miss them, it's time for the Hypercars. We begin with the 2018 Bugatti Chiron, 1,479 horsepower, 1,180 foot-pound torque, 4,398 pounds of weight. It is the heaviest car here today. It is the next evolution of Bugatti's hypercar, of course, picking up where the Veyron left off. A much better looking vehicle than the Veyron indeed, but is it better driving? Well, in my experience, it's still an incredibly tricky car to drive. The one key thing to remember when it comes to a Top Gear track is this is quite a small track, and driving a car as powerful as this around it, yeah, it does make things quite awkward, especially considering how tight and twisty it is, and this is hardly a small car. As far as it goes to drive, it is just very difficult in general to drive. The rear end really likes to come out on this. It's not like the Veyron. The Veyron had terminal understeer. This has balanced that out by having a lot more oversteer if you're not careful at lower speeds. I assume it's sending more power to the back than the Veyron did. But that does mean one good thing, and that is of course the fact that you get a ridiculous launch in this car. Probably one of the quickest accelerating things in the game in general. It is insane how quickly this thing can launch, but yeah, very difficult car to drive overall. Next up, we have the 2016 Koenigsegg Agera, 1,757 horsepower, 1,577 foot-pound torque, 3,589 pounds of weight. This is the most powerful car here today, and it is the torquiest. Yeah, those are some rather insane figures from the Koenigsegg, giving you a rather crazy power-to-weight ratio. Of course, the balancing factor with the Koenigsegg Agera is that it only has one gear, which is quite weird. It has, I can't remember how Koenigsegg actually describes it, it's very technical. But in terms of driving it in this game, it is very much like driving an electric car or something with a CVT. And as a result of that, it can, or in theory, it should make things a bit awkward. This should actually be a bit slower around this track. However, with 1,577 foot-pound of torque, that actually comes on at around 2,000 RPM, which really is not very hard to reach in this car. So you have to be mindful of all of the torque that you have in this car. It is ridiculously torquey. Again, it is only rear-wheel drive as well, so you've definitely got to watch out for the rear end breaking loose. A bit odd at first, but once you're used to it, it's actually not that terrible a driving of a car. Next up, from Spain, we have the 2016 Spania GTA Spano, 912 horsepower, 899 foot-pound torque, 3,197 pounds of weight. Have you ever wondered what a hypercar would be like if you stuck a turbocharged Viper engine in it? Well, the GTA Spano answers that with its ridiculously big aero brake as well, which I've sort of noticed on the replays afterwards. A car which you don't really hear too much about. The Spano sort of made a big kick when it was sort of in the Need for Speed film in 2014, and then it sort of went away. This is the next evolution of the Spano. From that was in the Need for Speed film. Of course, that was an earlier gen. This one is a later car. As far as it goes to drive, well, I actually was very much surprised by the Spano. Being a relatively unknown hypercar with a borrowed engine, I'm assuming quite a lot of borrowed parts, I wasn't expecting this to be a particularly great car, but it actually turns out to be a rather great handling machine. I'm assuming part of it's down to the massive amount of aerodynamics that are going on with the huge wing on the back. But yeah, this is actually a surprisingly good car to drive. One that I would recommend, actually. Yeah, I've become slightly more a fan of the GTA Spano after driving it. Next up, speaking of hypercars to come from weird countries, we have Denmark's attempt at the hypercar, the 2016 Zenvo ST1, 1,086 horsepower, 1,054 foot-pound of torque, 3,944 pounds of weight. Of course, the last time this car saw the Top Gear track, it did not end too well for it. It actually ended up catching fire on the real-life Top Gear, which was semi-entertaining, I guess. The Zenvo ST1 is not at all what you'd expect from a Danish hypercar. It is not a hybrid, it is not electric. It is very, very old school. It has a twin-charged V8 engine, it has a steel chassis, and the option of a traditional 6-speed manual. This particular one, though, does have the flappy paddle gearbox. As far as it goes to drive, the Zenvo is actually surprisingly good. You'd sort of expect a car like this to fall apart and just be loads of wheel spin and all the rest of it. It's actually not that bad to drive. The biggest thing you have to keep your eye on when it comes to this car is the weight. 3,944 pounds is excessively heavy, and as a result, it does like to understeer a bit. You can definitely feel the weight in this thing as you drive it, so definitely bear that in mind if you decide to give the Zenvo a go, but overall, not a bad vehicle. Next up, we've taken a look at quite a few hypercars that are built for just straight line speed. How about one that is built purely for handling? The 2016 Aston Martin Vulcan. 820 horsepower, 590 foot-pound of torque, 2,998 pounds of weight. This is the lightest car here today. The Aston Martin Vulcan. Yeah, I guess you could potentially say it's not really a hypercar, it's more of a purpose-built track machine. However, it is running sport tyres, and technically you can make these road legal, so it's here today. The Vulcan, I've got to admit, every time I've driven this in previous games, I've never really been much a fan of it. Just something about it I don't really mesh with. Driving it here today, though, it is definitely a very good handling car, very lots of downforce in it, lots of grip, so on and so forth. The biggest thing I had issues with in this car is just how responsive it is. I like to have my cars to have a little bit of delay. It's sort of why I like understeer a little bit more. I like time to think as I go through a corner. This car does not give you time to think when you go through a corner. You turn the wheels and the wheels will turn instantly. So it's something you do have to bear in mind. If you get the throttle a little bit wrong, the rear end will come round. Yeah, a good handling car, but one that you definitely have to be awake for. Next up, we have the 2016 Lamborghini Centenario LP770-4, 759 horsepower, 508 foot-pound torque, 3,889 pounds of weight. This is tied for the lowest torque figure here today from the great Lamborghini V12 underneath it. Of course, the Centenario, previously the cover car for Forza Horizon 3. This is, in essence, a modified Lamborghini Aventador with a new body, sort of this cool-looking carbon fibre with the yellow accents. I do quite like the way the Centenario looks. As far as it goes to drive, well, the the Aventador is actually a very good handling car. I really like driving Aventadors in Forza games. They have that little bit of understeer, just to warn you. They have the four-wheel drive to keep you secure. Very excellent driving cars usually. This one, unsurprisingly, is also excellent. It's a very easy car to drive, by far and away probably the easiest car here today to drive. One that you could just sort of pick up and drive, no matter what you've sort of come from. You can come from an ETCC touring car or something like that, and you'll fit right into the Centenario. A really nice driving car, and one that I liked a lot. Next up, we have what I'd proclaim to be the greatest hypercar of all time, the 2015 Koenigsegg One, 1,341 horsepower, 1,010 foot-pound of torque, 2,998 pounds of weight, tying it for the lightest car here today with the Aston Martin Vulcan. The One is an incredible car. Koenigsegg would claim it to be a mega car, One of course being the name of it, due to the 1:1 power-to-weight ratio this car possesses, which probably means it has the best power-to-weight ratio here today. An absolutely insane car, a car which I absolutely adore. I really like driving this because it's ridiculous. It is stupidly ridiculous. In a good way though. The handling in general is fantastic. It's actually right up my alley. There's a little bit of understeer to warn you every now and again, but getting this thing to oversteer is not actually as easy as you'd expect. You know, provided you're going a relative speed, it's not just low speed cars. If you mash the throttle, you'll find the arse end where the front end used to be. But it's actually not a bad driving car. Very scary though. Very, very scary to drive. Very exhilarating. A car which I recommend you all give a go because, yeah, it is insane. And finally today we have the 2013 Lamborghini Veneno, 740 horsepower, 508 foot-pound torque, 3,218 pounds of weight, again tied with the lowest amount of torque with the Centenario, which seems absolutely fair considering this is also technically just a modified Lamborghini Aventador. Unlike an Aventador, however, this is actually a very light car. 3,218 pounds in an all-wheel drive car is pretty insane. Makes it the third lightest car here today. Or fourth, sorry, with the, of course, the Koenigsegg and the Vulcan being tied, and then the Spano on top of that. Yeah, very lightweight car, four-wheel drive, and in my opinion, this might be the best handling car in all of the game. It's just got so much grip, so much downforce. It's great. I really like the way the Veneno looks. I know it's sort of a common complaint is people think the Veneno's ugly. I don't know what you're talking about. It's supposed to look awesome, and it does. But yeah, it's kind of insane that all the sort of indents and the wings and all the rest of it, they actually feel like they are doing something with the Veneno. It is a very good driving car, one that I would recommend you give a go, even if you don't like Lamborghinis, because this does actually get rid of quite a bit of the understeer, which Lamborghinis are usually criticised for having. On to the times then, and well, we have a new leaderboard leader, the Koenigsegg One with a 106.848, almost a second quicker than the previous leader, the Radical RXC Turbo. I don't think anything is going to touch that ever. In 7th place, we have the Aston Martin Vulcan, surprisingly, with a 109.995, a particularly good time, about a half second off of the Bugatti Chiron BC. In 8th, we have the Lamborghini Veneno with a 110.364, which is well deserved, because again, that is an excellent driving car. In 9th, we have, surprisingly, the Spano GTA Spano with a 110.494, and just underneath that, in 10th place, we have the Koenigsegg Agera with a 110.783, so the right tippy-toppy end of the leaderboard has been seriously shaken up. All those cars are, yeah, surprisingly good times from a certain few of them, and particularly the Agera and the Spano, quite surprised with those. Moving down the board some more, in 12th place we find the Bugatti Chiron with a 110.999. The handling of that car just let it down a little bit, not quite as quick over the Veyron as you'd expect. In 16th place, we find the Zenvo ST1 with a 111.637. Surprisingly beats out the McLaren 720S and a Lykan Hypersport. The Zenvo quite a bit quicker than I was expecting. It's not even that far off the Zonda Cinque, which is a really excellent driving car as well. And finally today, in 25th place, we find the Lamborghini Centenario LP770-4 with a 112.776, slightly slower than the 911 GT2 RS. Slightly quicker than the Ford GT. Given the PI number on that car, it's actually only an S-Class car, right at the top end of S-Class, as is the Porsche and the Ford. I can hardly say that time is particularly surprising. But yeah, a really great effort from all those cars, and as I said, the top end of the leaderboard really has been very much shaken up by today's episode. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching this edition of Forza Top Gear Lamps. Do hope you've enjoyed. Join us Saturday for the Rivals episode, where I'm going to be taking a look at a trio of hypercars with one specific engineering quirk. And then join us on Tuesday again for the main episode. And next time I'm going to be taking a look at more retro hot hatches, my particular niche. And that should be a fun episode for me at least. Join us for that. Until then, farewell.